Good morning, my dear students. I hope you are all fine. I'd like to tell you that I miss you so much. I miss your voices. I miss your laughter. I miss the time we spent together in the classroom. I'd like also to say to you, Ramadan Kareem. I know that these days are not easy for you. The days of the curfew and the coronavirus. Now you have to spend all time with your family. But you have to show that you are responsible for yourself, for your family, and for your country as a whole. Welcome back to the fourth quarter. We are going to begin the fourth quarter with an introduction to collection 4, which we are going to study during this quarter. Throughout this collection, we are going to study all of the historical passages, of course, related to the history of the United States. And as you know, it's a very important topic for you because in the SAT, the historical passages speak about the history of the United States and specifically about slavery, civil war, women's rights, and these topics. In this quarter, we are going to study all of these historical passages written by the most important writers in the USA. For example, we are going to begin with the second inaugural address, which is a speech given by Abraham Lincoln. Then we are going to move on to another historical passage written by Frederick Douglass. And after that, we are going to study the Declaration of Sentiments written by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. These three names of writers are very important, and in the SAT, you may find a lot of the historical passages written by these three people. And as you know, my aim is to teach you something which has a reflection on your SAT test to get the benefit of your study. Let's go on in a tour through quarter 4 and through collection 4, which we are going to study. If you look at the photo in front of you, this is the collection. And as you know, of course, there is a title for the collection, A New Birth of Freedom. So we are going to speak about the birth of freedom in the United States and how it changed from slavery into a free country. Each collection begins with a very important quote. Here we have a quote written by Paul Robeson. He says what? He says, "My father was a slave, and my people died to build this country, and I'm going to stay here and have part of it." Again, he says, "My father was a slave." So, Paul's father was a slave. And my people died, my people means the slaves, died to build this country, which is the United States. And I'm going to stay here in the United States and have a part of it and be a partner in it. Okay. What you should learn at the end of this collection. In this collection, you will explore how African Americans and women gained new freedoms after a bloody civil war. So we are going to speak about African Americans, we are going to speak about women and how they gained their freedom. Also, we are going to speak about the bloody civil war, which was a turning point in the American history. As we used to do in the previous collections, first we have some academic vocabulary, and these are very important vocabulary words because they are repeated throughout the collection. Study the words and their definitions in the chart below. You will use these words as you discuss and write about the texts in this collection. You have here 5 vocabulary words. Of course, in this table we have the word with the transcription. Transcription means how to read it, the part of speech, if it's a verb, an adverb, a noun. Then you have the definition, the meaning of this word, and then related forms, or what we call derivatives, the words derived from the main word. The first word is confirm. Confirm is a verb. What the meaning of confirm? Confirm means to establish the truth or certainty of something. So when you establish the truth of something, or you establish the certainty of something, it means that you confirm it. And the related forms we have here, we have the adjective confirmable and the noun confirmation. The coming word is definitely. Definitely. And this is an adverb. The meaning of definitely is in an exact, certain, or precise way. The related forms we have here, definite, an adjective, define, a verb, definitive, an adjective. So I'd like you to look up in the dictionary and find the difference between definite and definitive. I'm going to ask you about it the next session. Deny. Deny is a verb. And deny means to refuse to see or to allow. So when I refuse to see something or refuse to allow something, it means that I deny it. Also, another meaning is to reject. For example, if I say you deny the invitation, when you deny the invitation, it means that you reject the invitation. The related forms we have here, we have deniable, an adjective. Deniability is a noun. Denial is also a noun, and denial, a doer of an action. So I'd like also to find the difference between denial and deniability. The coming word is format, and this is a noun, which means the organization or arrangement of parts in a whole. So, for example, we can say you should write in a good format. So format here means a good organization or arrangements of the parts in your writing. The related forms we have here, we have a verb which is form and the noun which is formation. The last word we have here, unify. Unify is a verb. This verb means to bring together into a cohesive whole. The related forms we have, unity and union, unification. These are all nouns, by the way, and I want you to find the difference between them in your dictionary. Unity, union, and unification. And we have the adjective here, unifiable. These are the vocabulary words. Of course, at the end of each collection, we must have a performance task. At the end of this collection, you will have the opportunity to complete a task. What is this task? Of course, it's a writing task. So here, at the end of this collection, you should write a persuasive speech about a freedom that you believe should be expanded in the world today. We are going to discuss it later after studying the selections speaking about freedom in order to give you some ideas. Okay. Before we begin the collection itself, here we have an introduction speaking about the period of time in which the incidents we are going to speak about took place. We have here the title, which is Civil War and Reconstruction. In this introduction, we are going to know some important information about the Civil War and the Reconstruction, or the rebuilding, the reformation of the country, of the United States. Because the Civil War, as I told you, was a turning point in the American history. And after it comes the Reconstruction. Let's begin this introduction together. In the middle of the 19th century, and in order to know what that time was, 19th century began in 1800 and ended in 1899. So when we say in the middle of the 19th century, we mean 1850s. So in the middle of the 19th century, increasing sectionalism challenged the spirit of nationalism that had characterized the Romantic era. So sectionalism means dividing something into sections. Nationalism means unifying something into one whole. So here there was a challenge between sectionalism and nationalism. Eventually, sectional tensions erupted into the Civil War. And after 4 years of fighting, this is the time the Civil War lasted for, it lasted for 4 years, the country was unified once again. Although much of the South was in ruins and many issues remained unresolved, remained without solutions, writers gave voice to the debates throughout the period, sharing personal experiences and lofty ideals of freedom and unity. So here happened a change in the thoughts of the writers. The coming part, a house divided. This is the beginning of a wise saying said by Abraham Lincoln. He said what? He said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. This is a fact. If there is a lot of tension and conflict in a country, it will not stand. People must be unified, and the country must be unified in order to be a powerful one. As a matter of fact, you have to have a role in this introduction. So, after giving you the main idea, you have to read this part from A House Divided till the end of this page and summarize it in one paragraph. And after that, we have another part, Voices of War and Reconstruction. Also, this part will be read by you and write a summary of it. To remind you of how to write a summary, you must know well the main idea of the part you are going to summarize. Don't write all the details, but write the main details. So you write the main idea and the main supporting details. This is the summary I want to discuss with you. I'm going to send you this introduction on the LMS and also on the WhatsApp group. And also I'd like to remind you that we have a video session through the conference on Sunday. You are going to write the summary of these 2 pages. We are going to discuss together during the video conference. You are going to read, I'm going to choose some of you to read their summaries. And I'd like to remind you that this will be your classwork participation. Of course, you know that there are a lot of marks for the participation, for the attendance. I'm going to take your attendance at the beginning of the video conference. After that, I am going to grade your participation during the video conference. So you have to prepare yourself, write the summary in a piece of paper, then you can read it during the video conference. After that, inshallah, We are going to move on to the coming selections. As I told you, we are going to study the second inaugural address by Abraham Lincoln. What of the Slave is the 4th of July by Frederick Douglass. Declaration of Sentiment by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. I think this is enough for now, and I hope I found you well on Sunday, waiting for you and for your summaries on Sunday. Thanks a lot for listening to me, and see you on Sunday, inshallah. Goodbye, stay home, and stay safe. Thanks a lot.